7:43, I'll call this meeting to order. I'll start out by introducing the board. On my left is Mr. Noyes, and Mr. Kinahan, Mr. Stetson. On my far left is Donna Carter, our recording secretary, and I'm Hugh Hill, the chairman. The first thing on tonight is going to be reopening the public hearing for Spring Commons subdivision plan. We've pretty much been through it many times, a lot of things. This is a public hearing, yes. Everybody here, I've seen you before, so you realize that. And we'll have a chance to, if you have any questions later on. Chris, one of the things, or Mr. Peters, we were talking about having an appropriate screening, a fence to block the view from the subdivisions, and to have it constructed along the 50-foot buffer zone, which the Conservation Commission is going to want a fence there anyway. So, have you got any thoughts on it? How do you feel on that?
No, you want me to present, or you want me to cite?
No, I want it for that, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll just come with
I don't think we need to go over everything before.
plans. Yeah, that was kind of the biggest.
I'm trying to just zero in on.
Yeah, that was so. I mean, yeah, that was the biggest thing. You want me to stand up there at all?
Sure.
Yeah, that was
if
the.
you have something, let it. In fact, why don't you pull it out a little bit so that they can see it.
I was trying to honestly remember. I can't remember if I presented last or if my colleague presented while I was on vacation, but.
I think he did most of the things that we did.
I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah.
So there was the issue, I think of the, I think everything else has been addressed. We provided you with a breakdown of what the board wanted. The biggest thing was, the screening. So I did, one of the other comments, I think, was adding the contours on the abutting lots. So I looked at the fence, providing a fence on the 50-foot buffer, pretty much decided that it's pointless. From what I, just looking at the contours, you'd be looking right over you're looking in the back, any of these backyards, your eye height is probably gonna be about elevation 77. In the top of the fence at the 50-foot BBW would be like 671. And again, a fence, I don't believe would solve the issue of any screening, because I think you're so significantly higher back, you'd be looking right on top of it, right over the top of the whole thing. I was speaking with, looking at the buffer restoration plan, speaking with Tim Hay about, what we were showing on that. I believe those will provide, sufficient screening. Most of those plants, except for the sweet fern, which only grows about 5 feet tall, they're growing 10 feet tall, 12 to 25 feet tall. So that's kind of more. I'm not a botanist or anything such like that, but
Is that part of the subdivision, or is that that's the conservation?
Yeah. So this was kind of I inserted this into the sheet set because it's kind of part of it. So this was provided from Crawford Land Management. So obviously, this is the area in question, Zone 2. Asking with Tim Hay, looks like, let's see, the plethora up in the top right of Zone 2, that grows about 10 feet tall. Sweet fern, that's kind of small bushes. The hazelnut grows 12 feet tall. These plants here, which is, looks like the witch hazel, that grows to be about 25 feet tall. So I believe that should be adequate screening.
Are they conifers?
I'm gonna say no, but also I'm not 100%.
They are not.
This was, obviously more for this was very much geared towards buffer restoration as opposed to let's plant some big pine trees kind of deal. But looking at what the height they grow at, providing some kind of fence is not going to do realistically anything.
So the, so they're not gonna have any leaves on them. Come, and then in another month,
I guess not.
okay.
I don't understand much in the way of plants and all that stuff. I just believe a fence, visually, you'd be
Oh, okay,
standing.
no, I guess my question, let me be more direct. They will not offer a visual buffer zone.
Yeah.
A good portion of the year.
No, I guess the
Okay.
portion, assuming the leaves fall off, yeah, probably not.
Okay,
I know, from what I understand, it's like, I think visually, if you stood here, your eyesight would be about 72. The top of the fence would be 65. You tell me if that's appropriate. I don't think it is personally. I think you'd be looking well over into it. That's what I mean. I think it's
where is the current edge of the vegetation?
the current edge, for what is existing out there now.
Yes.
So this would be about here. Anything that was like inside this dashed area was cleared.
So, from so this is where it was cleared all along in here.
Yeah, so like this dashed.
So, and where is so this area, is this area now vegetated?
Yeah, so according to our
One of these plans you had an edge of,
yeah. The existing conditions will probably show it better. So, like, we got this swath, kind of what they outlined here. This swath, looks like this swath. So yeah, you're pretty much talking putting a fence somewhere on that vicinity. I would think visually it's like standing on top of the hill, looking at a fence, it just would provide nothing. In my opinion. Probably the type of vegetation within here, it's gonna limit the backyard.
the backyard is limited by Concom already.
Oh, yeah. It's already limited by concrete.
So that's why they want a fence.
Yeah, I think their fence is more, just instead of like the plastic tubes that they want required typically just split rail just to delineate to the homeowner, oh, you can't clear that.
I believe, from what I understand, they want an actual fence because they've had trouble with just putting up the tubes.
Yeah, and they mentioned that.
They disappear and go around it, whereas a fence is a barrier.
Yeah, they didn't say what kind of fence, a $10,000 fence or a $20, rickety fence.
Money isn't our issue.
No, I know that, and that's the basic.
Fencing is our issue.
I don't think.
A post and rail is not a fence. It doesn't even keep a goat in.
I'm inclined to say no fence is gonna make anyone happy. The only way it's gonna make anyone happy is if this project.
It'll make me happy,
I know.
and I'm the only one that counts, because I have to sign the plan.
I know. So, hey, in my case, I realized pretty much a fence ain't gonna make anyone happy here. It's only if it doesn't get approved. That's the only way fence is not gonna do nothing.
It's actually wildly inaccurate.
We'll have the public comment period, but it would also ask you to introduce yourself, the same rules. Ms. Roman, did you want to say something?
No, I don't appreciate the insinuation that the only thing that will make us happy is not getting the project approved.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe a fence will, again, visually, I have personally never been out there to oh my God, a fence would make a big difference. Physically, what I would see I'd be like, based on these contours, again, your eye level would be looking out and you'd be looking right over this fence. And that's how I initially saw this as, okay, if I was visually doing a model here and I put a fence here, you'd be looking well over the top of this fence. I don't know what it does in the way of sound, that's not my purview, but just visually, it just, made no sense to me. If this was obviously higher, sure, and it would block everything out. Where you put the fence, obviously would have to be inside 50 foot.
Outside of the 50,
Yeah, outside 50 foot, yeah.
actually along the line. 'Cause that's
Yeah.
that's where the Concom wants the fence anyways. So it's gonna be a fence along there. I guess the thing is, we're discussing is what kind. Okay. Okay, good. This one for you and Mr. Peters. We have drawn up a list of conditions on this. And first one, prior to construction, applicant and applicant's designate shall meet with town officials for pre-construction meeting, which, and I think it'll become apparent as we read through some of the others, which is a very common thing to, come up with time schedules when things would be done. Sometimes the police will attend it so that they know for road openings and having details out there and so forth. Number two is applicant to replenish the account previously funded to cover costs associated with consultants to assist the board in its review and monitoring the project. The amount to be determined by the board after the pre-construction meeting. Initially, we received some sum of money to hire a consulting engineer. There's still some money left in that. It's a revolving fund. It's still some money left in there. But that'll be an ongoing thing as it'll become apparent as we go on. Retaining wall design shall be submitted to the building department. The reason being that needs a building permit, and the planning board cannot authorize building permits. That's a building function, so that will have to go through, but the plans have been submitted to us and
I did actually submit that to them today.
okay.
I
But
remember you saying that.
you'll have to pull a
Yep.
building permit and everything else for it. Number four, compaction test to be performed by the planning board review engineer or his designation prior to paving, which is one of the reasons we're asking for this funding. We're very concerned that proper material is put in there and it is compacted to the proper amount. We don't want to have roads falling apart afterwards because they haven't been.
What do you want compacted? Are you looking at the gravel, gravel layer? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we just add that in there, just so there's no confusion, because you can also do a compaction test in the subgrade.
I think we want reviewing the subgrade too. I think
Okay, I think you ought to add, yeah, compaction tests of the subgrade and gravel base.
Because there's going to be considerable amount of fill going in there, and we want to make sure that it is proper. Because eventually the town would take over the roads, and we want good roads for our people. We have a lot of good roads, and we have a very good highway department that keeps them that way. Material source sheets to be submitted for review by the board's engineer before soil is brought onto the site. The reason for this is we've had a couple of instances where junk fill was available at a very good price and it's been brought on. In fact, there was one case where they had to remove, they had some asbestos laced material in it, and it had to be removed. And it was, that particular developer had a big expense to get rid of it. Not only did he have to truck it off, but he had to pay for getting rid of it. Then he had to buy it all over again. So it's a safeguard for everybody concerned. Then when this is done, which is in our regulation anyway, but just so that it's here also. Applicant provide an as-built plan for street acceptance upon completion. We need to as-built to make sure that it is built right, and we also need to plan for acceptance of the roadway. Plan easements shall be included on applicable deeds. Language shall be subject to town's review and approval. We have town council review them for the language and for the thoroughness of it. A homeowners association documentation shall be provided for review and approval by the planning board. You're going to have a homeowners association because of the common septic system, and we're just looking out for both the town and in the future people living there. Street trees subject to the approval of the town's tree warden. We're going to need to plant some trees in there, and he knows what's best for the providing shade in the future. In fact, you people who live on Harvestwood, you know that the trees with the roots in the sidewalk. We don't want to see that happen again. And I hate to use your neighborhood as an example, but it is an example for why we do want it done and why we are in effect calling it out. And also appropriate screening fence to block view of the subdivision from the butters at all times during and after construction. We've talked about it, and I think the consensus is, as we've talked before, we want a fence in there. And there are other examples in, there's a big development down on Scotland Street where they did put the fence in between the two. So we're not asking anything that's outrageous. In fact, we would actually rather see trees and stuff put in, but a fence is an immediate thing, and the fence is a secure thing, as we were talking earlier. You can walk around the pipes, you can, the fence is a secure thing. So those were the conditions that we had come up.
Specifics on fence or type of plants?
I would say at least a 6-foot stockade.
Like, any type of like, shrub or tree, is that like, something that has to go before the board for approval?
If you wanted to put up
Was it Aphrodite?
Yeah, I mean, I've just always heard of arborvitae being screening things.
Yeah,
They grow in as quick as anything.
arborvitae's are the best. If you could, we could change that to a 6-foot fence, or arborvitae's at least 6 feet tall.
It's kind of like a vague kind of thing, it's appropriate screening. It determines what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. I don't know if there's a specific.
I think it's one of the other. Yes, Ms. Gorman.
If you put in arborvitae though, the next occupants of the homes could just rip it out easily or cut it down.
Well, that's why it is along the buffer zone. And
And what sort of success rate would you guys attribute to that?
to the
Or
tree.
because they fail very easily, especially if you plant them later in the season.
I know I've got them along my property line, and they thrive. Most places I have seen them.
So we have several on our property which are similar to what's in the back there, and it takes a lot for them to take root. I know our neighbors just did it as well.
Okay. We can also put in a condition to have a deed restriction that, in fact, would probably seems. Thank you for bringing it up. That the fence and the whatever buffer thing is restricted to be there.
Well, you got a homeowners association. why don't we include it in that?
We
That
could
the
put it in there.
homeowners association is to maintain the, whatever you wanna call it, the 50-foot buffer
Yeah.
zone between the development and Harvestwood at all times.
Actually, I think the Concom does it too. I
Yeah.
think there are conditions. But we can put it in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if something die, if they put in an arborvitae and they die, that at least the homeowner, at least you got an entity that they can go after.
I know, I think arborvitaes are the quickest and
Oh, yeah.
and the thickest, and when they're in there.
Well, they did them over component. Those things have grown like weeds, so.
Yeah. I put some more in after last time somebody, or the next to the last time somebody drove through my fence. Any further discussion from the board? Any further concerns or comments from the public? Yes.
Couple questions for you. You're talking about the fence, and you're talking about the screening, now is it just gonna go, all right, so Harvestwood would be the north side, correct?
Yes.
All right, and the other side would be the south side, obviously. So is the fence and the screening only going to be associated with the south side of this project, or is it going to?
No, only along here. Down here, this is all town conservation land, and there's gotta be is it even, where is the 50-foot buffer?
Is that right here
Okay, but on the lots, so
on the lots?
Yeah. there'll be, but all they care there is, I can't speak for them, but we're putting this in because it's trying to screen the residential, there's no residential area over there, so we're not looking at that, we're leaving that up to the Conservation Commission, what kind of fence restriction they want over there.
All right, so I've got this thing flipped in my mind. So the fence is going to go on the other side of the street coming in,
Yeah, right here.
the other side of
Your house is here,
Mhm.
and the 50-foot. Want to highlight that?
I should say limit of work, too. So like that's like the limit of work that actually we're gonna do. So we wouldn't be putting like shrubs around, like this is the proposed limit of work there.
That is the line. The other buffer zone is like the house here,
Providing fence.
the fence there, here, but that's, the Conservation Commission is the outlet there, and they're gonna want it delineated on the ground, but they're not talking about the fence.
So the arborvitae's are gonna go where you drew the yellow line with the marker.
Is it arborvitae or a fence, or arborvitae and a fence? I'm confused by what
Well,
yours.
we're discussing it with, we want a restriction, we want something in there which, whichever Mr. Peters wants to do, as long as there's something in there.
At 6 feet tall, initially.
I mean, arborvitae's are good, but a fence is permanent.
That's my only concern.
In the subdivision
I mean,
on Scotland Street, there's what, about thousands of feet of fence that had to be put in before they could even put foundations in.
Can I ask another question?
Certainly.
Okay, okay, so I understand that. The fill that's going to be brought in, okay, that was kind of brought up with once before as far as the trucks, coming and going. Can that be determined, like what direction that they're going to come in?
Not really, the public streets and
The only thing that restricts is if there's a bridge. I mean, because the state pays back to the town money every year for maintenance of streets. Therefore, people paying for taxes on the trucks pay a fuel tax. So that fuel tax pays for the road money that comes back to the town. So you're kind of limited on restricted. We have a couple of streets in town, South Elm, not South Elm, River Street,
Yes.
that is restricted because there's a couple of culverts in there that won't take the weight of the trucks. But really, I don't think there's anything on Harvestwood, and I don't, well, they couldn't come in from Howard Street because Howard Street is restricted from truck.
Right.
So everything would have to come in Harvestwood, or from Spring Street from Brockton.
Okay,
But we're restricted, you can't restrict
Right.
because the contractors are paying taxes, which goes into the road money, which the town reimburses back to us, so.
Is there some sort of like timing on it? Because my children's bus stop is actually at the corner of Harvest and Spring Street, and they have to walk down there by themselves, and they will just leave them on the corner if there's no adult, once you hit 4th grade. So I don't want any, massive dump trucks coming down the street.
I don't know.
with my
We can put a
9-year-old.
restriction on time period of work, but most work is between 7 and 3, I think. 8 and 3 or something like that.
Mhm.
Might go a little later, might be 4, but I don't know.
How many
I don't
yards of fill do you have on the site?
I think we roughly calculated for, I guess a rough order of magnitude. I am not sure, just for like the roadway. There was a number provided to the board at some point, I remember, about just, the amount of fill for the road. I can't remember what it was.
360
Was that yards or trucks?
trucks.
Okay, so whatever, yeah, someone calculated it for.
That was the initial calculation you gave.
But the biggest problem you've got is you won't really know until you excavate to virgin soil all the way in through the whole development, because there's been so many changes in dumping of material in there that our engineer's gonna wanna see clean soil, not something that's been in there for 10 years.
So they have to take out additional
For
soil
the road bed,
because of
they have to take it right down to clean soil.
Because
And
of
it's
the
no
issues.
different than if it was a farm.
Mhm.
All the loam and everything has to be taken out till it gets down to gravel. And then the road is built up in increments and compacted to allow the material. That's where the engineer, our on-site person will take it, make sure it keeps an idea that they put it in at, I don't know, is it 6 or a foot? But they have to compact it and make sure it stays that way when the frost comes.
You don't have any of those issues.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
In our construction status, the roads that are built the way we want them in our thing, we don't have many problems. In fact, I don't know of any, since I've been on the board, that we've had problems with roads leading into these subdivisions, that were built 100 years ago. Might be problems, but the subdivisions we build in this town are usually standing up.
Okay, is there, any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Wait, I'm sorry. Where did we end up with the fence versus arborvitae?
There will be a 6-foot fence or 6-foot arborvitae's.
Okay, so it's either or, okay.
When does that like have to be decided?
Oh,
Before you do any work.
and one more question, how far apart are their arborvitae's? Are you guys gonna stipulate the span and all
So
of
that
that,
they- so
and
that they-
success rate?
So that they touch.
They'll grow in.
Yeah,
There's a,
that's
the
what would be.
nursery people know whether they're a foot,
I just-
18
I
inches.
Wanted to make sure it was stipulated
Yeah.
based on previous history.
In fact, we would, if that, we would consult with the tree warden
Okay,
as, for the placement of it.
okay. Yeah, Tim is great.
Chris, that 6-foot fence, what would be?
Sound most like where it's been highlighted. I mean, that's on that. I mean, I guess, you know, like there's it's kind of a vague, kind of like, you know, going back and forth, like how far the spacing.
The ideal situation, and due to the 50-foot no-touch zone you got there, if that wasn't there, then the fence would be on the lot line.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely.
And I don't know if get the conservation to waive it and put it on the lot line, and then it solves all purposes.
Yeah, they won't waive that.
You know, if they wanted to delineate 50-foot no touch, they won't wait.
Yeah, but 50-foot is gonna move. It's gonna move.
That's why you put something that doesn't move in. But,
So all that will be in your final stipulations anyways with, okay.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry.
yes.
Okay, the conditions that you have put forth, is that public record, Mr. Hurley?
Yes,
Is that something that like I can get a copy of?
yes.
Okay.
In fact,
Not right now, no, I'll be back.
no, it will, it'll be, we have to notify the town clerk when we do it, and that it's a 20-day appeal period.
Okay.
And what we have to do is in the notice, the conditions are part of it. It's going to say, we're approving the plan, was it August 18th, I believe,
Well,
revised to that date with the following conditions.
Okay.
I have a question, that 6-foot fence from my brother's property, they look right over the fence, what's the purpose of having the fence?
To delineate the line,
Delineate the land,
the line.
the line.
Yeah. Actually, the trees are better.
I've got a tree line there anyway, so they can't see it through the tree line.
When the leaves fall off, we can see through the trees.
Yeah, you can.
I can't cut the trees down because that's 50-foot BBW. No one can cut the trees down.
Right.
So why put a fence up if you can't see all, if it's blocking the view?
The fence is required anyways, and because there is concerns with it in there, we want to see a fence in there. Which,
What?
pardon?
What do you say, last comment?
The fence has to be put in anyways. It has to be a fence along, delineating the
50-foot BBW.
right. And you want to see one that is to give them, and actually you'll give you, if the people in Harvestwood can see, and by these people having a fence, or the everybody's, it would be beneficial to them because it'd be a separation for both peoples. So Mr. Peters can use it as a selling point when he's selling the lots, that he's got a buffer there.
The tree line should be more than sufficient.
So Concom's requiring a post and rail fence now, right? Is that-
Yeah, so we haven't
is-
got, like, that was not part of the order, like, once individual, like, lots got released and individual NOIs were gonna be applied for.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were gonna be saying, oh, typically they're gonna require,
Okay.
okay, from what I've seen, like, I worked on a project where, like, they're gonna require a split rail fence, not like, cool, put up a 6-foot stockade fence.
Right, yeah.
Split rail, cool, it's fine, and that's what I expected to, happen as, individual lots got developed.
So we're talking either a split rail fence and arborvitae or a solid 6-foot vinyl fence. So the cost difference
Yeah, that's pretty much.
is pretty much the same.
Yeah, so I guess, yeah, for it, but it's, I guess, whatever's the cheapest, most effective,
Yeah.
thing. I somewhat agree with the, screening a little bit, but I knew at some
What about
point.
changing the height requirements?
I think, like to the point, yeah, like if we did do the stockade fence, like that would delineate, cool, that solves your, conservation's, issue requiring like permanent markers, so that would help, solve that problem, I would say.
But I don't understand, you put a fence up there, the person that buys that lot there can't go on the other side of that fence, because even though he owns it, 50 foot, he can't go on the inside of it. So you're depriving him at 50 foot. You can't look at it, so you can walk on it. The fence, you can't go in there.
You can't do anything with it, so yeah,
You can't do it, but he still walk his property, he still owns it,
he owns it.
but he can't walk in it.
Well,
So what's the have that?
that's up to Conservation Commission.
What's the Tim Hayes say about that?
Again, just thinking logistically, if you had a fence here, put a gate, and you can walk back there, hop it, I mean, I don't know.
The man still owns that
If
property.
you want to, put barbed wire up, I don't know, that'll,
Get a ladder.
put a gate through there, obviously based on what everyone's saying, it's providing, the stockade fence, the white vinyl, cool, like that would be a complete blockage, or if they really wanted to, I don't know if they could install a fence so if they could walk back, or a gate so they could walk back there.
You're depriving the owner of that property to move on the other property, to 50 foot.
Well, the fact that the 50-foot buffer deprives them already.
No, 50 foot buffer, you can't look at it, but you can still walk on it.
You can't drive on it.
That's right, you can drive on it anyway,
Yeah.
but you can still walk on it. He owns them at that 50 foot.
That's how it is, though. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the subdivision with the conditions that we've discussed earlier.
You want to close the hearing first?
Excuse me.
Just,
Thank you.
I thought that's what you were going to do 10 minutes ago. I think that's what you meant to do.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Noyes,
Aye.
Mr. Kinahan,
Aye.
Mr. Stetson,
Aye.
and Mr. Hurley votes aye. Vote is unanimous of the four present. Now, I'll entertain a motion to approve with the conditions as discussed and as written.
I'll make the motion.
Tony?
I'm thinking,
Okay.
I have still some concern. I'll second it.
Well, if you have concern, we'll discuss it in the discussion period. They say we have a motion and a second. Now, is there any discussion on the motion at the end?
I think for the purpose of this discussion and future discussions, we should be absolutely clear on the difference between the 100-foot buffer and the 50-foot no-touch. What you're allowed to do and not allowed to do.
Well,
I should know, I don't.
yeah, no, but that's really conservation stuff, and in different towns interpret it differently. But when you have a no-touch buffer, that means
No work, no touch means no work. That's pretty much self-explanatory. But buffer doesn't really mean anything.
well, that's in their regulations. Do you think it should be different wording? If so, you should approach them on it.
Would their fence have a gate on it, a doorway that they can go over it? They own the property,
That'd be up to Concom.
okay, fine.
We have to do the homeowner, wouldn't
You would think we'd home.
Well, once
It's
it's
not-
built,
it's- All we care that it's there, but
We, I I'm just going back and I know the residents probably want to know for sure what's going up there. I mean, I'm leaning, I tend to agree that a 6-foot fence may not screen it properly. And I think the arborvitae, given time, will provide a far better screening than, you know, because those things grow 20, 30 feet tall. You know, yeah, it takes a while, but they do grow. Versus a 6-foot fence is always 6 foot. You know, from what I hear, I would, you know, if the Concom's making them do a post and rail fence, put arborvitae on it, and I agree with you. I mean, there should be a deed restriction for every one of those properties. And in addition, the homeowners association is in charge of maintaining that buffer strip. You know, so at least, again, if arborvitae die, they get replaced by the homeowners association.
What prevents anyone from ripping those out?
Again, the homeowners association.
So like if this person,
Yeah, the homeowners association written so that they're responsible for maintaining adequate buffer between this neighborhood and Harvestwood. So if homeowner rips them up, then the homeowners association can go and replace them, whatever they want to do. I don't know if you can find them individually, but it's going to be part of the condition. Yeah, I mean, people can always do idiotic things, but they could always rip up a fence too. I've seen that.
Oh,
I've seen that on subdivisions that I have to look at, you know.
I was thinking like, you know, if we did the vegetative buffer, I would, you know, at that point, I would, you know, doing a split rail fence, you'd be right on, in the middle of these trees. It would be
I
pointless.
think if you do the buffer, I think they'd probably be just happy having the post at the angle points.
But
Because the trees.
Oh, because you got
Because
the
the
yeah.
trees, I don't think you'd need the fence then, because you get the trees, you know where the buffer is.
you can't take them out anyway.
And people can walk between the trees.
Yeah. I don't know. I
Do
just
you want to amend the motion to make it to be 6-foot arborvitae's?
why would they be? Can you get 6 foot?
You can buy them at 6 foot.
Can you?
Yeah, because the guy over at Components, he told us, he said, and he's in the plant business,
Yeah.
he told us that he was bringing in 8 foot. I mean, you pay for whatever, the maturity of the tree, you pay more, but
Yeah, I know they grow because I've got them. You've got them. They must grow a foot a year.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
yeah, and usually they plant them, the nursery knows that how long it's gonna take before they merge in, so they know to start them out at a certain.
Yeah, I'd like to amend that. To call for a 6 foot or screening with 6 foot arborvitae along the 50-foot no touch, or just outside, or however you want to word it. Because yeah, I'd like to make that amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion to make an amendment. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Mr. Noyes,
I
Mr. Kinahan,
Aye.
Mr. Stetson.
No.
No, you don't want the trees? Okay. And I vote aye. So 3, 4, and 1 against. Okay, now we have a motion. We still have a motion on a floor. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay. All those in favor? Mr. Noyes,
I
Mr. Kinahan,
Aye.
Mr. Stetson.
No.
And Mr. Hurley votes aye, so we have 3, 4, 1. Being said, the notice to the town clerk will be written up and put and delivered. At that point, that starts the 20-day appeal period. And if you leave your email, we'll email you a copy of it when it comes in. When it is done.
I'll get it all, don't worry.
In fact, I know you have my, okay, so send me.
I'll be emailing you and Tim, don't
Okay.
worry, because they have their conditions as well, that I'll be getting copies of and delivering
Okay.
it.
Because it is public record.
Yep.
So it's.
Yep.
So, okay, so, after 20 days, plans can be recorded, and if you can, set up the pre-construction, meeting sometime in there. These things will need to be done. There's a couple of things that need to be done, and actually the fall is a good time to plant things. It isn't dry and they're not getting cooked and so. This was
Question on
going.
that, is there a stipulation on the timing for his planting? Because I know Conservation Commission has a stipulation on the timing, to ensure the maturity by the time building begins. Do you guys have a
He-
stipulation as well?
He should get them in as soon as possible, and this thing is not gonna get built overnight. It's
Oh,
gonna-
no,
And we'll be holding, we also have this money, which is a reviewing thing. But when he gets the, base course in, all your utilities in, he can then apply for lot releases. He has to put up surety to guarantee the remainder, that everything else will be rebuilt. At that time, if, we'll make sure that there's money in there if the trees are having any problems to cover it.
okay,
Because when all is said and done, when the town actually accepts it, we want everything done. We don't want anything, so that's why we have the money, so that it can be done. And it's an incentive for it to be done, and if it's any, at the end, he gets his money back, but we make sure that it is done.
so is your money separate from the, Conservation Commission? Because they have a
Yes.
$10,000 surety,
It's a-
okay.
It's a surety fund.
There,
We're two different
yep,
boards. They have concerns and we have concerns. We try to work very well together. We get the boards in this town go on very well.
But when he puts the road in, all the utilities and the base coat, he comes back to us with an estimate from a contractor on how much it's gonna cost to finish everything else that needs to, the sidewalks, the final coats, loaming, seeding, bounds, and all that stuff. And we usually add percentages to that because of the economy.
mhm.
So that we don't want to be stuck with end up with a bank taking the place over, and we've done it a couple of times and it's not fun. We end up becoming real estate agents, and we're not real estate agents.
Okay, so all the planting should occur this fall then,
Yes.
prior to any building? Okay.
Well, the idea is to give you some screening if they're not there.
Mhm.
And if they're not delineating the line, I'm sure the Concom is going to want to see that line delineated on the ground also before he does anything. Okay, is there anything further? I guess not. Okay, thank you everybody for coming in.